Pope Francis just passed away, and so what I wanted to do is I wanted to have a conversation around what are the characteristics that would make up a great pope? What should they be talking about? Like, what should they be looking for that would make up a great leader, and how we can connect that to great leadership. But there's also kind of an interesting metaphor of the conclave of like the customer's mind. Welcome to Jason Forrest Show with my wife, Mary Forrest. And today we're on the same mission we're always on, which is to ignite the pride, purpose, and respect of professional selling to give you the freedom that you desire. Specifically today, we're talking about the idea of Pope Francis. He recently just passed away, and we wanted to talk about what are the characteristics or the attributes that would make up the next great pope. And so we're going to take those concepts and we're going to break it down and apply it to what we're looking for in great sales leaders and great entrepreneurs and great CEOs, and how those same characteristics would also be what we're looking for in a great pope. You ready to go?
You know I am.
All right, Mary. The Pope Francis just passed away on Easter Monday, and so what I wanted to do is I wanted to first talk about just the implications of that, but then also I wanted to have a conversation around what are the characteristics that would make up a great pope, and how we can connect that to great leadership.
That's great.
So I'm kind of new to this, but how much do you know about the whole process besides like from the Da Vinci Code? And
Well, the last time I think when he was becoming pope, I was in Catholic school. So it's been a minute, but I remember hearing about the process then of them getting the decision. I remember the smoke goes up is what lets us know we have a new pope. So I wouldn't say that I have in-depth knowledge, but I do remember a little bit of the last time.
Got it. So the history, when I was looking it up, is that the basic concept was, it was in the 13th century, I believe. In the 13th century, they came up with this concept called the conclave. And the conclave is connected to the Latin word cum clave, which means with a key. And basically the idea is the cardinals are locked in the Sistine Chapel. And the purpose of that is to prevent any sort of external political pressure to influence the decision of who the next pope is. And so the idea is we're going to lock you in the Sistine Chapel, and you guys are going to have to kind of talk it out and work it out and have a unified decision that says, hey, here's the next leader of the Catholic Church. So that's the basic premise of the idea of the conclave.
Yeah, interesting. I think doesn't pope come from some meaning too of like holder of the keys or bearer of the keys? I think it's interesting, like the key metaphor through all of it. It's interesting to me as well. Okay, so they get locked in a room called the conclave.
That's it. Yeah.
And they make the decision, and they are not allowed any out. It's like a juror, right? Like a jury. Mm-hmm. You're locked in a room, no outside influence, no newspapers, no media, no calls to friends and family, in order to make the decision.
Mm-hmm. That's right. Yeah. And so to me, I think there's kind of several metaphors here that I wanted to kind of play into. So one, I wanted to discuss the concept of like what should they be talking about? Like, what should they be looking for that would make up a great leader? Because that's what they're picking. They're picking the leader of the Catholic religion over the next however many years until that person, the Pope, the Pope's life. So that's number one. But there's also kind of an interesting metaphor of the conclave of like the customer's mind that I think we could also kind of go into too, right?
Say more about that. I'm not sure I understand.
Well, so there's kind of two parts. So one is the idea of picking a leader, but then the number two is the conclave of the customer's mind. So you think about it, like the customer's mind is this kind of locked door kind of trap. And as a salesperson, our job is to basically like influence this like locked door. So like how do we get inside the locked conclave of the customer's mind and influence them to get them to buy what they want to buy. I don't think there's no such thing as manipulation. We're not gonna force someone to do something they don't want to do. But how can we get inside that locked mind of the conclave and influence the buyer to again purchase what they want to purchase?
Okay, very interesting.
We're gonna go a couple different ways today.
Well, and with that, sorry, now my mind's going because I asked questions about that. Is it okay if we switch around number one and number two? Mm-hmm. Okay. So because I would think that different people have a different amount. You've got the mind that's the deadbolt conclave, And then you have some that have a wide open door, right? Anybody that says anything, they're being influenced by. And so they read, a random article online, or they have a friend, or they're standing in the line at the grocery store and talk to somebody and are talking about what they're thinking through and getting opinions and are opinionated by it. So I know you talk a lot about people being internal or external, but I think that would be the degree of which somebody's mind is open to suggestion and to influence versus, no, this is like my decision. I'm going to make this on my own. I'm not going to discuss with anybody else. Here it is. But I don't know. That's the first thing that comes up for me.
Yeah. So you're saying that, yeah. So what we have to figure out, which is what I talked about a lot, that, my simple definition of what's considered to be like a strong market versus a weak market is that a strong market is when it's socially acceptable to buy what you're wanting to buy. Meaning that if you were selling a home and all of a sudden your prospect decides to buy a home or is considering buying a home, and they go and tell their friends and family, the friends and family are like, yeah, we're all buying a home. You should buy a home. We're all buying a home. So it's socially acceptable to do that. And they're highly influenced by the outside versus in a tough market, people are, it's not as socially acceptable. And so when they do mention the idea of buying a home, it's going to be kind of persuaded otherwise. And so what you're also kind of saying too, which is interesting, is that we need to kind of take that same approach, that when we're like, that like in the case of the Pope, right? In the priest, like they're all in this conclave and they're basically also trying to figure out like what's going to be socially acceptable. I think is also the angle they're going, right? So like when they're having this conversation, like if I was to pick Pope A or priest A to turn him into the Pope, like when is that person going to be favored by like the world, right? Or is that person not going to be favored? How much are we going to have to like kind of persuade the world in order to pick that Pope?
Yeah, and how enthusiastically will he be followed? And I think it's good. I think it's maybe obvious, or not obvious to say that because we're using priest and bishop and pope and cardinal kind of interchangeably here, that we both went to Catholic school, but we are not part of the Catholic
Correct.
faith, and so apologize for our for maybe using the wrong terms on some of these. But yeah, I mean, I think that has to be part of it because it's imperative, right, to the faith, because the Pope is the leader of the Catholic religion, but the Pope is also just a world leader. I mean, people that are not Catholic are watching what's happening. They're listening. When the Pope speaks, people that are not Catholic are listening, right? So he's not just a leader of Catholics, but he's a leader of people as well. And so it's how enthusiastically will people follow, because there is, you have to find that balance of being able to connect with humans and with people inside and outside the faith, and have people want to listen and want to follow, but also make sure that the person is not so in the world that they are so easily liked by everybody, maybe because usually what the culture and the world says to do and what the Catholic faith says to do would not necessarily be in congruence. And I think that's similar to, finding leaders in a business, finding leaders anywhere is you've got, people, you need people to follow them, but you don't want them to be a yes person that's there to appease everybody. They need to have a value and a standard that they're holding true to, but also have the warmth and the compassion and the love to get people to want to follow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's right. 100%. So you think about, we think about this whole idea of the conclave, and the brain, the mind is like the conclave, which is interesting. And I also want you to kind of picture right now, if you kind of picture this, is that each of the members inside, like the priests, the bishops, and so forth, are inside. They also kind of represent like the different aspects of what we have to persuade. So, for example, you've got like the logical bishop. You've got like the emotional bishop or priest. You've got the one that's more like so we have logical, emotional. We've got more like, I don't say circumstantial scarcity kind of thing, but then you also have like soulful, like more of a like, what is it really going to do for the person on like a deeper level. And so I think that's kind of an interesting kind of thing too, is like, again, if you think about inside of the person's brain, we have all these different elements. And so we have to make sure that we're make sure that we're attacking each of them or influencing each of them individually, right? So we have to influence the logic. I mean, don't you think inside think about this, like I'm going to picture yourself and you're inside the conclave, okay, right now, okay? When you agree, there's probably like the logical, rational-minded priest. And there's like the emotional one that's like, it's all about the heart. It's all about Christianity from the heart. And then there's the one that's more like
more flips the table Jesus.
Yeah.
One that likes little baby Jesus, pictures baby Jesus. One that has, warm, compassionate Jesus.
Yeah. Yeah. I think there's like different ones in there. And I think when they're in, it's like, okay, how do we like influence and like kind of pick the right one? Well, again, it's like we have to like approach the logical priest and, talk about like the facts and the figures and like why is this person going to be the right leader? And then we have to pick like the emotional priest who's like leading from the heart, and it's about transformation or about feeling and love. And then you have this more circumstantial one, which is like, okay, like, yeah, but this priest can get this stuff done now. And like, if we don't choose this priest, we're going to be missing out on these things. So it's like the fear of missing out message for the priest. Mm-hmm. And then we have like this more like soulful one, which that would be more like transformation. Like here's the religious crusade, or the religious what's it called? Revolution, reformation, right? Like here's this, and like here's what we're going here.
Yeah, and I think for each one, I mean, that's something that you have to do with your. I agree with you with the person in front of you is what is the primary, what's the loudest voice in their head on their reason to buy. So are they more? Is it because they're purchasing something because it's sustainable and good for the earth? Is it because it's has the highest ROI? Is it because, which is going to be our more logical or analytical? Is it because it's going to have the fastest results? Is it because it's the biggest amount of change? And helping see the priority of the person in front of you. But as a salesperson, you have to know all the messages. Mm-hmm. You have to speak to all of those and understand the benefit. And maybe even sometimes where it's not your product or service might not be the benefit, but still, can you share the message in a way that helps somebody to make a conscious, positive decision for their life?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah. So anyway, I think it's kind of an interesting metaphor. I do think that as salespeople, we're trying to obviously influence change for the betterment of the person in front of us. And I think there's a good metaphor there of the person's brain is like a conclave. It's like a locked door, and we have to figure out how to like get ourselves on the inside and at the same time kind of influence the different, like the four different like pieces that are inside, the four different like influences are inside. Again, the logic, the emotion, the circumstantial, like fear of missing out, as well as like more of like the like spiritual, like soulful, like transformational side. Yeah. So all kind of more.
And I think what's interesting for most salespeople is that, well, not most salespeople, all salespeople are also buyers. And so looking at what is the reason why you buy something, and then usually the way the process or what's the most important to us is the message that we're best on selling other people. And so we will miss out on that. So, for you and I, we have different criteria or priorities when it comes to purchasing something or what makes it beneficial or advantageous to us. And so for me, a message around sustainability or how this can be reused, or how this is saving the earth is going to be a really strong message, right? And that's going to be the primary message. So somebody, if they naturally have a product that is doing that, and that's the products, the branding message, it speaks to me. But there's a lot of products that's not the branding message, but it still might do it. So if the salesperson, even if they were not, right? So if that's not your primary, but if you were selling me, knowing that that's the message that you need to give, you need to understand your product and service. And how is this like really beneficial for the world? How is this sustainable? How is this healthy? How is it healthy for the family? As healthiness is one of my primary values. And so you would need to sell me that way. And if that wasn't your primary, then you have to really sit and think about it and be prepared for it outside of it. And I think that's might be sometimes where somebody's missing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, they just, again, that the whole philosophy is that people do want to, they want to be right, and people do want to buy what they want to buy. And so our job is to speak to them in a way that gives them permission to do what they kind of naturally already want to do. So like each of these priests inside the conclave, like they all have their own, I wouldn't say agenda, but they have their own like point of view. There we go. Point of view of the kind of priest, the kind of pope that they want representing them and why they want that. And so that's really the game, right? Or that's the science and the art of the whole thing is how can they get what they want? But inside of that conclave, there has to be like someone's gonna have to take the charge and have that persuasion that says, okay, we can all get what we want. We can all accomplish that. Mm-hmm. So go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, and when you find yourself out of rapport, or if they find themselves out of rapport, so let's say two cardinals, they're in there and they're battling, right? They are not in rapport on who should be next, which I am sure is happening. The next thing that has happened is if you chunk up, you can get to the place of rapport, because I am sure what every single person in there agrees on is that they want the Pope that's going to do the best for humanity, that's going to do the best for our world. And so that's where they're going to agree. Now, how that is, right, is where they can disagree. So if the disagreement gets too hot, let's go back to where we do agree. So same with if you are, as a salesperson, and find yourself in conflict with your prospect or not there, it's like, wait a second, let's take a step back. Let's go up. What are we both looking for? We're both looking to find the right solution for you, for your family, or the right solution for you as a business owner, or the right solution for you as a buyer for your company. We're both looking for that, what's going to give the best. And then you can go back to start talking about the ways to get there. But there is something somewhere you can agree. And we talk about this a lot around the election, right? Is that we've got very heated Democrats and very heated Republicans. But when you take a step back, the cool thing about having all these people that are heated is that everyone cares so much about our country and about doing what's best for our country. Now, they might not agree on where it is, but if you can take a minute and just appreciate, wow, like this is, people care so much and they believe so much that we can be a better country than we are today, that they're getting this heated about it, then it's a really cool way to look at it, and it can build that immediate rapport.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, and that one concept right there of kind of chunking up and getting to a point where we both agreed on the same thing. I mean, that would solve so many problems from a political perspective of Republicans, Democrats, or whatever party is out there. Is just get to a point where we both agree and then start back from there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Start over at that place. But it's all relationships, right? Like we're getting an argument. Wait, we're looking for the right solution for our children or the right solution for us as a family, and go back to that space, and it changes. So it works, I think, in all conflict.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Most of the time I've realized that when you and I are fighting, it's because we like each other so much more than anything else. So that's usually our biggest struggle that we're having.
Yeah. Figuring out how, like, frustrated or trying to figure out how we're going to spend more time together, mm-hmm. or what we're going to do, but not from a place of how do we get away from each other.
Mm-hmm. That's right. Yeah. Okay. So let's shift. So now let's shift to, like, what are the characteristics that would make up a great pope? And the reason why I think this is a cool concept is because I would assume the same characteristics make a great pope would also make up a great leader in sales, a great entrepreneur, a great sales manager, a great CEO. I mean, it's just probably the same characteristics. So you do a tremendous amount of executive coaching, and you spend thousands of hours a year working with executives, working with VPs of sales, working with sales directors. So what would you say are the, like, I'm putting you on the hot seat right now. What are the key characteristics that make up like a top 20% leader compared to the ones that are failing?
So, I heard a speaker yesterday, and he said something that really synthesized this and as I was going through everybody that I've coached, I was putting it through this new lens that he had said, the way that he said the words. And I think it's an alignment. So he was talking about the word, the ancient word of father, both if you go back to ancient Latin and ancient Greek. And if you think about it, in ancient times, the word father would be synonymous with leader. That is what a father was. You would have, the Pope, or you might have, well, even before the Pope, sometimes you might have emperor or somebody as a leader. But for the most part, leadership was through fatherhood. So it was going to be synonymous in ancient times. And it's so fascinating. So he said the two ancient words for father, if you go to Latin, and I don't speak Latin, I struggle with Latin, but it's, I think, pater. I'm going to say pater. We're going to go with that. The kids constantly correct me on Latin, which is great because it means they're learning Latin. But that means a pattern maker. A pattern maker. And then if you go to the word Abba, which comes from Abu, that means decision maker. And so to be a great father or to be a great leader is to be a pattern giver and a decision maker. And I was like, whoa, this is fascinating, because when I look at it, and a lot of the coaching I'm doing is helping executives to make fast decisions and to be authoritative in their decision making. Don't wobble on it. So the most important thing is, once you make a decision, you go with that decision, until you go, maybe made a wrong decision, then announce it, go a different direction. But when you call a play, when you make a decision, you stick to it. You don't allow wobbliness from yourself or other people. This is the direction we're going. This is the vision. This is the decision, and we stand true to it. So where I see leaders failing a lot is they make a decision, but they don't hold people accountable to that decision. Like, hey, I'm calling this play. This is the decision for the business. And then people aren't doing it. And they're like, oh, well, let's kind of figure it out. No. That causes all kinds of chaos within an organization. And then again, the other one of pattern maker. Now, this is the one that was just so cool for me, because what that means is, are you consistent enough that you've created a pattern that people can follow? Wow. And so if you're not doing that, you're inconsistent, nobody knows, you're not a pattern giver, and nobody knows what to follow. Nobody knows the how to be successful. And so I thought that was really, really cool. Had you ever heard those before?
I've never heard those before, but I love both of those concepts. I mean, I love the idea of the pattern maker. I think that's phenomenal. I mean, that's right in line with so many lessons that we've created for leadership on how to lead from the front. That's, I think, the most important leadership. My most important leadership characteristic that I try to live by is to lead from the front. So even though I'm the CEO of FPG, I still take sales calls. I still sell, because I want to be able to lead by example, and I still want to keep my saw sharp, and I still want to be say, hey, look, I can handle whatever relevant situation is going on. So I want to be a pattern maker from that perspective, and I want to be able to show, here's the process that I believe makes sense, and here's the process I want to follow. But then I love that second part, though, of taking a stand. And that's what we're really talking about here, right? Is having that claim and taking a stand. And it's interesting you said that. I heard advice one time from a mentor many, many, many years ago, and he basically said this. He said, if you're going to be a leader, you might as well go down on your terms versus be fired where you look back on your career and said, I wonder what would happen if I just would have gone with my instinct. I wonder if I just would have done what I thought I should have done, if I would have still been there. And his advice, which I thought was really good, he said, at least if you get fired going down on your terms, you can go down with integrity. But if you're getting fired just kind of doing what your boss says to do, even though you're the leader of that department, then again, you don't really know if you made the right decision or not.
Yeah. Well, and yeah, you're owning your life. You have that. That's extremely strong claim. But you have to be willing to live with the consequences. When you take a stand like that, you have to be willing to live with the consequences, whichever direction they go. So you win on you and you lose on you. But the pattern maker, I mean, how many, I look at things like our 5 core disciplines course, and the leaders that say, okay, guys, here's as a company or as a department, we are having a morning huddle. We are meeting for 15 minutes every morning. I tell them all the time, I would rather you tell them, and I think it should happen every single morning, every morning for 15 minutes. But I tell them, I would rather you say, we are going to have a morning huddle once a week and do it once a week, than say we're going to have a morning huddle 5 days a week and you do it 2 or 3 times. Now you're not a pattern maker. Now you're not consistent. And so if you are inconsistent, it allows your team to be inconsistent in their processes. And if you know, right, and there's a difference. I mean, the first step is you have to know the process for somebody to win, to be able to call a play. So, but if you know it, like you know, here's the process to follow to sell our products, and then you don't follow it, well, that's a huge problem, right? So, but if you have it, here's the play, and you're putting that out in space and telling the team how to do it. Well, now we have to make sure that they're following through and doing that. So, step 1 is you have to know the plan, then tell people the plan, and then hold consistent when you follow it, and for your team to follow that plan of action. Now, it's more difficult when it's a segment of your business that you don't know how to win. And I think that's where you can be upfront about that and not be a pattern maker yet, because you don't know what the pattern is, and you can collaborate or get a mentor, get a coach, just start helping find that process, which is so common, right, for like marketing, because marketing changes all the time. So you follow your marketing plan as long as the marketing plan is working, but then as soon as it's not, you have to look at it and you need to go to a coach or a mentor, or you need to study your hiney tail off to figure out what's the next place that we're going to go and make this adjustment so we can follow our pattern again. When it comes to marketing, I think marketing is probably more changing than any other department that you have. The rest of them you can be much more consistent in your patterns with. But I think that's you could be a little bit wishy-washy there. It's not wishy-washy because you're announcing it, right? It's part of the process is we are doing this until it doesn't work anymore, or we don't know that this is the plan. We don't know that this is going to work, but this is the plan that we're going to execute for the next 30 days, and we're going to measure it. So I'm expecting you to follow the plan, but I don't know that it's going to, I don't know what the outcome is going to be. Whereas as opposite on our sales side, we know exactly how to win. Follow this plan, do this, and have it out there. But too many people say we're going to do this, and then they don't hold it accountable for themselves or for others. And then once you do that in one area, it gives permission for the rest of your processes and plans to not be followed. And then the leader feels that. So the kind of the next step with it, when I talk to a lot of leaders, they're like, I know, but I didn't really do it. So I don't correct the person in front of me. I don't hold them accountable because I haven't held myself accountable yet. I don't hold them accountable because I wasn't doing it, and I feel, and most people have a very high sense of integrity. I don't feel like I'm in my integrity correcting somebody when I haven't corrected myself yet. So I think the number one thing is self-discipline. You can't be a great leader if you don't have your own self-discipline. If you can't follow your own orders and your own plan, you will not be successful in leading others. Now, you might end up you could still have a successful company because you've hired correctly and other people that are following it and kind of taking over, but you're not successful as a leader if you can't first follow your own self and have self-discipline.
Mm-hmm. And we've seen that a lot. We've seen a lot of people that have kind of jumped the levels. So one of the things we talk about is like the levels of leadership, right? And so the bottom of the pyramid, you've got your ability to lead yourself, and then right above that is lead one other. And then right above that is to lead a team and lead a department and lead a division and then lead a company and then lead the country and then lead a revolution. So we're really talking about here when it comes to Pope, he has to lead a revolution. And so there's a lot of levels of leadership that a person needs to master before they can lead something like a revolution. But just bring it back down to earth. You're right. So many people we've seen fail because they go from, they maybe they can lead themselves, maybe they can lead even one other, and then they go right from leading one other to leading a division, and they skip multiple steps, and they just don't have that right foundation in order to make it happen. So I love the idea of the pattern maker, and I love the idea of making decisions, because decisions are important. But before we even get to that, though, I think a leader also needs to figure out like what is their philosophy of leadership. So they have to kind of start with that basic concept of what's their vision, what's their manifesto, what's their Jerry Maguire mission statement of the kind of leader they want to be. And to me, I think that's important. I think a lot of times I know that like when I've interviewed leaders for other clients of ours, I'll ask them that question. Hey, what's your philosophy of leadership? And they kind of stumble on it. Like they've never really done the soul work to figure that out. Or I'll say, how do you know that you're an effective leader? Or, what are you trying, like, what's your legacy going to look like? What are you trying to accomplish? And what's important to you about that? And it's just a lot of people just haven't really thought through those answers. And I think it's important for a person to think through those answers before they're going to be an effective leader.
Oh, yeah, because otherwise you get stuck, or that's where it gets wishy-washy, right? We go one direction one day and one direction another because I don't have a clear lens of what I'm judging my own leadership on and what I care about. And I think one of the things that comes up, that can come up for people, is making the decision and prioritizing what's more important for you. Is it to be friends with the people on your team, or is it to raise them into leaders themselves? Is it to get them to the next level? And a lot of times, if you cannot have all, one has to have the priority over the other. And the same with parenting, right? You can't be, hopefully you end up having a beautiful, great friendship relationships with your kids. But if that's your idea, if that's your primary, then they might not be learning the skills that they need to learn, or the discipline they need to learn, or you might avoid the tough conversations that they need to hear. You might avoid disciplining them if just being friendly and having the friendship with them is the primary over helping to create them to be incredible, disciplined human beings.
Mm-hmm. Well, but I think, yeah, what you just said is important, is that, and this is something I said a long time ago that people struggle with a lot, but it's that people are, like, every single human being is successful at following whatever their process pattern and strategy is. The key, though, is the outcome that they're desiring equal to their vision of success? So to your point, if a parent sits back and says, you know what, my number one criteria, my number one goal is I just want to be best friends with my child, then they have to also realize that there's a potential consequence with that. So what is the consequence that they're trying to figure out? But everything they're doing, the process pattern strategy, is all going to be leading up to this idea of, hey, we're best friends. Okay, we're best friends. But you might be missing out on some other things.
Yeah. And there's consequences the other way. I mean, I had timeout corners everywhere, all over the city. And so the consequence of that is that I could be late somewhere. I have a kid that's mad at me. I have to stand out somewhere by the timeout corner where I can watch her at that time. So there's consequences to both sides. But I think what's interesting, though, is I think most people, like what you said at the beginning, it's not that they've made the conscious decision of, I want to be best friends with my kids. That's number one. It's that they're not prioritizing. They don't have a philosophy. And so they get into a situation where you need to discipline your kid or discipline an employee. And now there's a tug and a struggle because there's part of you that wants to keep things cordial, that likes the friendship aspect of it, which who doesn't, right? That wants to avoid having a really tough conversation. And then there's the part of them that knows, I really need to tell them the truth on this. I really need to correct this behavior. I really need to help them find another plan. I really need to point out that this was not the right play. And so now they're stuck. And a lot of times when people feel stuck like that, they just don't do anything, which ends up leading over to the friendship, amicable side. And then before they know it, the team or their children, right, are monsters, right? It's not, or they're not effective, or people are leaving, or you've got somebody on your team that is a rock star and super disciplined, and they're watching that and they don't want to be part of the team anymore. So you lose really great employees because they're not going to, they don't like that the standard of excellence isn't held throughout the entire team. And that's how we lose great people. But I don't think it's because they've made the conscious decision of, we are going to be friends. I think it's because there wasn't a decision made.
Yeah. So you're saying that if a leader actually did the soul work, they wouldn't make the conscious decision of, I want my legacy to be that everyone likes me and that we're friends. This is more of like a subconscious, almost like fear-driven decision that they're not really thinking about.
Yeah, it's stuck. You get into these stuck decisions where there are two sides of you going in different directions, which causes the person to stall. I actually don't. If somebody said my number one criteria is to be friends and to give people a confidant, and I'm going to use my leadership, and that's going to be my way of helping people know they have someone on their side no matter what. And I'm just going to be there as friends for people. And we're not going to have tougher conversations. And I just want to always be a safe place for people to make mistakes. I actually think that's cool. Like, I'm fine with that. That's not how I run, but I respect that. I like it. Because there's still a claim in it. This is the leader I'm going to be. This is how I think is the best to run a team. This is my gift to the world. And this is my place in leadership. Like, this is what I really want to do. And the way that I want to affect and lead other people, I'm cool with that. Where I get frustrated is when the wishy-washy. I haven't made the decision of who I am and what I'm going to be. And it's because, and I'm frustrated with it because I know that the leader in front of me that I'm coaching, they're going to continue to be frustrated with themselves. They're going to continue to not be living up to who they want to be. I think a lot of leaders, we have different gifts as leaders. Leaders don't look one way. There's a lot of different great leaders out there, but all of the great leaders have something that they claim, the type of leader that they want to be, and they could be vastly, vastly different. They could have different outcomes, but they stick to who they become who they're supposed to be, and they help those around them become the next version of them. They lead them to that next level of that next version of them, and it can be different, and that's okay, as long as they know what they want to be.
That's great. I love it. Okay, so there's these 4 pillars of leadership that we talk about, and I think this 100% applies too. So again, if we're kind of selecting a pope, and to me, I think we should talk about the 4 pillars of sales leadership, because the 4 pillars of sales leadership, like, to me, applies as well, right? So you have the first pillar, which is know the playbook better than the players. The second pillar, which is the coaching pillar. The third pillar is leadership pillar, and then the fourth pillar is the business pillar. And so let's go through each one. So the first pillar of know the playbook better than the players. I think this is interesting because in sales we talk about it as the leader must know how to sell through the toughest situations. So again, they can lead from the front and they can give relevant tactical advice to the sales team. So I think just the same, the Pope must know the playbook better than the players, which happens to be the Bible. And but to me, it goes further than just knowing the Bible. It's like embodying the Bible. Like, so if I was to, like, I don't know about you, if I was like in that room and I'm like picking a Pope, like I'm kind of going through the group and saying, okay, like of the candidates, who is the one that I feel like embodies the Bible the most? Like who like lives out the Bible the most? Like who's the most congruent with it? And it's like the Bible's a part of them, like the playbook.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think, and when problems are coming up, are they going back to what they think about, or are they quoting the Bible first? Well, here's what the Bible says, and then here is how I've taken that scripture, and in a similar situation, here's the way that I handled it. Those would be the questions. If I were doing Pope interviews, those would be the questions that I would want.
So how much are they instinctively always saying, let's make decisions based upon what the Bible says, versus their just instinct is, here's what I think we should do. Oh, wait, maybe we should go back to the Bible and see what the Bible says.
Right. Always the playbook first, the Bible first.
I love it. So that's number one. The second one is the coaching pillar. And so for the coaching pillar, one of the ways that we evaluate leaders and teach leaders to be great coaches is once you know the playbook, now you have to be the coach that can help other people get like unstuck. And so it's like, of the popes, like who's the best one that if we were throwing out like individual scenarios with them, like individual like troubled scenarios that are going on in the world, or troubled scenarios with like individual humans, like which one has the best ability, like the best skill set to go and like reframe them, to go coach them, to go get them unleashed, to get them unstuck.
Yeah. Well, when we have sales leaders, this concept, we always talk about it in the terms of, you either have a new salesperson that's having a struggle, but a lot of times it's somebody's in a slump. There's a slump. Can you take a great salesperson who's in a slump and get them out of the slump? And for this, it would also look at, can you take a Catholic in doubt that is struggling with their faith and bring them back into the faith? Can you get them out of their doubt and back in congruence in their belief system.
And to me, though, when it comes to coaching, I think the disconnect so often is knowing the playbook is I intellectually know it and I can do it. Like I can intellectually know it and I can also embody it and I can do it. But the coaching piece, though, is how can I personalize the concept to make it relevant for the person in front of me? Because it's very possible that the leader sees things a certain way, but they can't get the salesperson to see it the same way. So how can I kind of change the message? So I know, for example, like one of the things that I'm constantly doing when I'm coaching salespeople is I have my kind of way. I'm like, I totally see this from my perspective. I totally see it. I don't understand why they can't see it, but I can't go and I can't approach it like that. Instead, I have to, okay, how can I put it in their frame of reference? How can I put it in their shoes? How can I give them some sort of like example or metaphor? So like, for example, let's say a salesperson's like struggling with something and they're like, you know what, Jason, I'm not good at sales. I'm never good at sales. I'm just not a good persuader. I just can't do this. And then all of a sudden, like a coaching frame would be, okay, well, what's something in your life that you're really good at? Well, when I was younger, I was really good at sports. And okay, well, like what sport? I was really good at tennis. All right, well, talk to me about like how many hours did you put forth to become a great tennis player? Oh, I practiced every single day for 2 or 3 hours for like 10 years. And I won all these state championships and it was phenomenal. All right, so 2 or 3 hours, every single day for 10 years, that's thousands of hours. And so how does that compare to how many hours you put forth towards being a great salesperson? I went through like a couple of seminars and like maybe 16 hours and we talk about it, for 10 minutes a week at a sales meeting. All right, well, how does that compare? You're right. So if you want to be great at something, you have to put forth the time, and you put forth the time in tennis. You're just not putting forth the time when it comes to this process and this communication, this mindset when it comes to sales. But like that would be an example of I need to find a way, I need to find a key into the conclave. Into the conclave of that salesperson's brain to influence them to see, hey, you can do this too. And that's the coaching pillar. And so if I was in that room and I was evaluating the Pope to decide which one I want to pick, I'd want to figure that out. I want to figure out, okay, so hey Pope, here's the different scenarios that are going on. And you got this human being who's like really struggling with this and this. So like, what would you do? Like, what would you do to like reframe it for them? Don't just give them the scripture. Like how can you take the scripture and how can you make it personalized to them and put it in their world so they can see it from their pair of glasses and like their point of view? Because that's how you do it. And I would like one by one, like kind of give different ones and see which one we do the best.
If only
I could be in the conclave with them.
Only you were in the conclave. There it is.
Yeah.
There it is. Here's the scenarios of the humans and what's going on. I think that's great. So to me though, that coaching pillar, that's our persuasion. That's the sales. And I think that's why you and I believe that all leaders should have sales training, because leadership is selling ideas and patterns and processes to your team, regardless of what department it is, right? All departments, we need to persuade them to follow the processes, to believe in the company the way that you believe in it, to become really successful. Mm-hmm. So it's almost like the coaching pillar is almost like the leader's sales pillar.
Oh, I like that. So we had the know the playbook pillar better than the players. We have the coaching pillar, and then the third pillar is the leadership pillar. And this to me is your probably favorite pillar, I would assume, but it's the pillar of structure. That to me is what I see it, right? So why don't you talk about if you were in the conclave right now and you were evaluating the popes and they're all in a lineup, right? We're like, it's like you and I are like, you're like Paul Abdul and I'm like Simon Cowell. I don't know why I should give you that one, but we're like, it's like American Idol for popes. And so right now we're evaluating. So what would be some criteria that you would be looking for to decide, are they like the best at the leadership pillar?
Yeah. So for this one, it's, I talked earlier about our self-discipline. A great leader has to have self-discipline first. But the leadership pillar is now the discipline of the whole. So do we have the structure and the discipline for the whole? So I would want to know, is this Pope really prepared every Sunday for Mass? Is this Pope, I'm really going off here. Is this Pope, with the team that he has under him currently, how does he run that team? Do they want to spend more time with him? Mm. Do they believe that they are better because of time with him and structure? So not from a political aspect of, proximity is power. Let me get there. But do I want to go be around you because I know that the more time I spend around you, the more I learn, the better I am, the more successful I am in whatever it is that I'm doing. And so the leadership, really the litmus test for somebody in their leadership pillar is looking at the team and looking at, and for, taking this outside of it for people at home, or if we were looking at the teams that these candidates have, do they show up on time? Not the potential pope, but the people that are going to meet with him. Are they on time? Do they cancel? Right? So if you're a leader right now, do people cancel your one-on-ones? Do they schedule over it? Do they forget about it? Do they show up late? Do you ask people to do something and then they don't turn it in? They don't do the work that you've asked them to do. And the way I look at it is there are people that are more late in their life and a little bit sloppier in their work. But even those people, so if we think about the person that that is late, that doesn't, and I mean like from showing up on time somewhere, but also in turning in work or having projects completed, they're just late on it. There are people in that person's life that they are never late for, right? There are people that hold such presence, have such claim that Joe, who is showing up, but Joe might be late everywhere else in the world. Joe might not have his work done or completed on time everywhere else in the world, but they show up with that person on time with everything complete. Because there are people that just hold that space and energy where you just know, like, I'm not going to be late for that person. Not because they're going to scream and yell or anything like that. They just have such a reverence and honor and discipline in themselves that actually brings out the discipline in other people. It just makes sense to you? Okay.
That's awesome.
So with those, I want to know, is this person, which hopefully every single person that's a candidate at this ever being a pope brings that out just in their presence from other people. So it's not usually even by things that they've said, but their presence. But their presence, they can only grow to that presence if they hold such high discipline in themselves. So if you as the leader show up late to things, don't have things half finished, again, it gives permission to everybody else. If you are so reverent in your role, in your company, and what you guys do, and the roles of the people that work for you, you're so reverent in that, and you hold it to such high standard, everyone will just show up better. There'll be a couple that don't, but for the most part, even those that are late and have sloppy work other places, they won't for you. So that's what I would want to look at the teams of these pope candidates.
I love it. So you're saying, to summarize, that when it comes to evaluating the leadership pillar on who is the best in the room as it relates to leadership pillar, it's looking not necessarily at them as much, but looking at the creation of their teams and that who their teams are is an example of who they are.
Yes, and I'm going to add on the growth of their team. How long does it take them to have a new person on the team get up to speed? I'd look at that metric at that time.
So how many leaders have they created?
Right, leaders. Yes, and great employees, great employees and leaders. If they've created leaders from that, that's even another level.
Got it. So number one, it's how many employees have they created that are self-sufficient, and then number two is how many of those self-sufficient employees have they turned into leaders, and how many of those leaders do they turn into other leaders? So like, are they creating self-sufficient employees? Are they creating leaders? Are they creating a legacy? Yeah,
and getting people to the next level, because sometimes we can look at it and go, and this does not take away from the leader. Maybe the leader is amazing at hiring people. They hire and onboard them. They hire these great people. But now I want to see, does that great person jump to the next level? Or do we just go, I hire great people and I leave them alone? Well, okay. So that means you're great at hiring, and hiring is difficult. So if you're great at hiring, that's awesome. That is, I think, one of the hardest things of being a leader is finding the right talent to bring onto your team. So that's great. But a great leader now takes somebody who is good, makes them great, and takes them from great to impeccable. And do you continue to coach them to the next level regardless of where they are?
I like that. It reminds me of the book Good to Great by Jim Collins. And so in the book, he researched that the most effective leaders he would call a level 5 leader. A level 4 leader is more of a charismatic leader. and it's the leader that everyone like loves being around. But the level 5 leader is the one that had the ability to create a legacy and create other leaders, create more self-sufficient employees. Okay, so the fourth pillar. So again, we talked about the know the playbook better than the players, which is super important. Number 2 is the coaching pillar. Number 3 is leadership pillar, and then number 4 is the business pillar. Now, this is interesting because from a sales and business perspective, it's obvious. It's your KPIs of sales. It's your marketing qualified leads, your sales qualified leads. It's your profit margins. It's your sales cycle times. These are all kind of the metrics. But I think the same thing applies to being the Pope. So right now, I mean, the Pope is the leader of this religion, and the Pope needs to see that in the sense of, okay, so what is the conversion rate? And one of the things that we know, which is interesting, is conversion rate is connected to the word conversion, and conversion means to change someone's belief system and was originally started as a religious word anyway. So the Pope needs to have the best business plan, the best marketing strategy on how are we going to improve our conversion rate.
Absolutely. And it's the complications of understanding the culture of the business, the Catholic Church, in all different countries, in all different dioceses. Like what's important there? How do we now, because same with an international business. I might not sell my product and service in the United States the same way I sell it in Brazil, the same way in Italy, the same way in China. We have to understand and honor the culture and the people there. And then, of course, put what we have on top of it and see how to serve them best.
Yeah. So if I was in the room, I'd want to figure out, all right, Pope, all the future popes, all the Pope candidates, tell me your numbers. What are the numbers, right? So who's winning right now? Are the Hindus up? Are the Catholics up? Are they down? Are the Buddhists? How are the Buddhists doing? Like, who's up? Are the Mormons? Are the Mormons on like a great ride right now? Like they're running strong. Like, so what are they doing? Right. So the Pope needs to figure out like what are the numbers? What are the rates? Who's winning? Who's losing? And in this case, the Pope is obviously in charge of creating a battle strategy to improve the conversion rate of the Catholic Church. Like, I want to know, does he know the numbers? Does he know why other people are winning more than maybe the Catholics winning? And what do they need to start, stop, continue? I want to see a start, stop, continue plan from the Pope on how he's going to increase the conversion rate.
Yeah, but yes, and to that point, so it has to be an overarching plan, but then it needs to be customized per country and people. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I mean, it's hard to out convert the Mormons. They're the ones. They're good.
They're the ones.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is interesting because I think a lot of times going a different direction here is that a lot of times people, they hate looking at the competition, but there's I'm going to totally mess this up, but there's a Latin word that's actually connected to the word competition, and competition, it basically means like to conspire. It's like to like iron sharpens iron kind of thing. So like if you actually like the original like concept of like the Greek and Latin concept of competition is that like I want to be in competition with you because if I'm in competition with you, I'm going to learn what you're doing and you're going to make me better and I'm going to make you better. So like the original concept of competition was actually like a very noble thing. It was noble to be in competition with someone else, especially if you could find like your biggest competitor and you give that biggest competitor like props and respect to do that. So, which is interesting because I think a lot of people were so afraid of, I don't want to know anything about my competition. I don't want to know anything that's going on. Versus, I need to know exactly what they're doing. Like if I'd be like, hey, so Pope candidate, like, do you know what the Mormons are doing? Like, they're doing really well right now. Like, so, like, have we figured out like what they're doing and what their strategy is, and like how are they getting people to like follow them and to like boots on the ground and they're getting the youth to like go out there and like go door to door and get people excited. And so like I don't think we're doing that on the Catholic Church here. Like, what are we doing? Like, what's going on? Like, what are they doing? What can we learn from them? Can we take that? And I think that's a great aspect of a leader that most leaders are afraid to become. Like, they're afraid to humble themselves and actually learn from the competition and figure out, okay, nope, I give props to the competitor. That competitor is doing something I'm not doing, and I need to go figure out what they're doing.
Yeah, and it's okay to do that, right? Sometimes we think we have to figure it all out ourselves, but if somebody has it figured out, we should do it. But it's as you were saying that about competition, I've not heard that before, but there's definitely I guess, a strand of that still exists, because I can think of so many people that I will ask, like, is this person your competitor? Are they your competition? Like, that's not my competition. That's not my competition. It's totally their competition, but they're like, we're not in the same level. That's not my competition. So there is some of that, I think, reverence for saying competitor as well.
And recently I heard Chad Wright, the amazing Navy SEAL, he was doing one of his like truck talks on YouTube, and he was actually talking about how he used to hate David Goggins. And he said something that was very inspirational to me, that I'm like, you know what, I need to learn from Chad Wright. He said the younger, immature version of himself would just hate on David Goggins and would just hate on people like that, because he said, you know, he kind of got locked into, I don't know, maybe they're cussing too much, or maybe they're going about it in a different way that he would go about it. But then he started realizing, he said, you know what, like that person's very successful, and even though I wouldn't have done a lot of the things David Goggins did to become famous, he's very successful. He's the best at his game. He does these 200 mile endurance challenges. He clearly is in the top 1% of his game. And he said, so I have mad respect for him for doing what he is doing. And it doesn't make sense for me to throw stones at him and to try to like cut him down and to talk about like who he is. Instead, like if I want to beat him, I just need to be better. It's not about cutting him down. It's about the idea of competition, in the sense of David Goggins has mad skills and is doing a phenomenal job. And so Chad Wright was like, you know what, if I want to be a better athlete than him, or a better former Navy SEAL than him, then I just need to be better than him, instead of spend my time talking about things that David Goggins shouldn't be doing.
So interesting. It's so interesting. It reminds me, there's a few years ago, we were at a conference. I don't know if you remember this. And we saw somebody there who's been a friend for a long time and is a sales trainer. Also is one of your Warrior Selling alumnas who came through our program first and now is a sales trainer. And I remember you guys watched, like, because I'm kind of standing there as you're having a conversation with her, and telling her how proud you are of her, and you told her you have now become one of our competitors. But you said it from this place of like reverence, because before, like, she was so new and such a young business, and nobody that was looking at her would have considered, looking at us would have considered her and she had tears in her eyes on that, and you had tears in your eyes, and you're like, I'm so proud of you. But that whole, like, you are a competitor of mine now, was a really cool moment between you two, in a huge place of reverence. And that was I haven't thought about that for a long time, but do you remember that moment?
I do.
Yeah.
I do. But I also can relate 100% to again, Chad Wright, because the younger, more immature version of me, I spent a lot of time criticizing or not liking the way that other sales trainers would do things. And a lot of them are, they were or still are more famous than I am. They've got more followers than I do, and so they're clearly doing something right. They're not going about it the way that I would go about it, and I don't necessarily agree with a lot of the things that they teach, but they're doing something right. And so to me, I think that's an interesting kind of thing, that like even right now, I mean, we've won more non-paid awards. So there are paid awards out there to become the number one sales trainer in the world, but we don't have that. The awards we have won are non-paid, which means you have to actually like prove that you're doing the work and you're changing people's behavior. But there are plenty of trainers out there that have a million more followers than we do, and the marketing is much stronger than they are. And so I could sit back and say, you know what, I could criticize them specifically on the things they teach, or I could focus on, you know what, I don't agree with what they teach, but they clearly are better marketers than I am. And so what if I could be just as good of a marketer as them, if not better, but then still maintain the integrity of the way we go about teaching it? Then we will be better than them. We're better than them, not just in our effectiveness as a trainer, but also effectiveness in our marketing. And so let's just be better.
It's awesome. Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. So we covered a lot today.
Yes.
Again, Pope Francis just passed away recently. So that door is now being closed, and now a new door is being opened in the sense of deciding who is going to be the next pope for the Catholic Church and represent the Catholic Church around the world. And so all these, again, all these priests and bishops are all going to be in this conclave locked in. They're supposed to be out of there by the middle of May, I believe, ish. Or as long as it's supposed to take, I think or they're starting in the middle of May. That's what it is. They're starting in the middle of May. They're going to be in there as long as it takes until they can have a unified decision. And so today we talked about a lot of things, but specifically we talked about again the two things. What will we look for in a pope, as if we were to use the same frameworks that we look for in a great sales leader, a great entrepreneur, a great CEO, and in this metaphor of the conclave is like a buyer's mind. And we really do need to influence all four aspects of the buyer's mind, which again is the intellectual part, which is the logic, the emotional part, the kind of circumstantial fear of missing out part, as well as the kind of the soulful kind of spiritual part. So all four are in there. And so if you like this message and you want like us talking about kind of modern day events and how it applies to influence and sales, then like and subscribe. Until next time, this is Jason Forrest. Push yourself to become a better version of you.